We are just a few days away from one of the main fights this spring, and soon we will find out the name of the first contender for the undisputed heavyweight title. To brighten up the wait, I suggest we take one last look at the guys together and answer the question, who has more chances? Friends, today's video will be dedicated to the final analysis of the fight between Anthony Joshua and Francis Ngannou. Please don't forget about the likes, comments with 4 words, and subscribe to the channel. Here we go. Before discussing the technique, let's remember how the guys came to such a fight and how cool its promotion turned out to be. Initially, there was no talk of a confrontation between Joshua and Ngannou at all. As you remember, at the end of last year, AJ performed at a tournament in Saudi Arabia where he fought against Otto Wallin. Meanwhile, in the main event of the evening, another top heavyweight, Deontay Wilder, was making his return to the ring facing Joseph Parker. Both royal weight stars were supposed to easily beat their opponents, so the Saudis could arrange a fight between two of them. However, Wilder failed. Dr. Sleep, Bronze Bomber, showed one of the worst performances in his career and gave almost all the rounds to Parker. This outcome hurt everyone, including the former champion from Britain, who now had no one to box with. However, just a couple of weeks later, promoters with the support of the Sheiks found a new solution: Francis Ngannou. After a split decision loss in the fight against Fury, the Cameroonian became the #1 target for many heavyweight boxers, but he didn't want to scatter on small fights, so he waited for a suitable opponent. And then, in January 2024, he finally got the opportunity to shine again, overthrowing the former king. From that moment, the fight's promotion began.
Any of them think they are going to have easy money, well, too bad for them. By the way, answering that question, if AJ take the punch that Fury took, me too, I don't guarantee that is going up. I have heard that he doesn't have a chin. I'm going to find out. That doesn't mean he can lose. I mean, like, being the same fighter doesn't mean you can lose, right? He lost to Andy Ruiz. He lost to Alexander Usyk, and he can still lose. By the way, I'm really intending to hang him some loss on March 8th. So, like, yes, you can still be who you are, but still lose. Nobody is undefeated.
But right now, no lives matter. It's a straight war, I'll be real with you. It's just war. We're at war. This isn't like they say there's no friends at war. So I respect the guy, as you said, he's done well, all that good stuff, but we're fighting, and I have to get my mind in tune for what's about to happen. If I just focus on what I'm good at and do what I do, I'm putting myself at an advantage. So I'm avoiding any Fury relations of what he done and so on and so forth. But let me tell you this.
Please.
Every opponent that me and Fury have in common, I've either stopped or knocked out.
Interviews with Ariel Helwani were just the first stage. Soon it was time for the first press conference.
I'm going to fight him, so what do you think I'm going to do? Is to look for his chin. I mean, that's what happened in the fight. In case you, in the fight, you're trying to hit somebody in the chin or wherever you can hit him, right? And then, yes, I heard that he doesn't have a chin. I don't know if it's true or not. We're gonna find out. I hope I had an opportunity to test that out.
I won't say too much, but he brings 2 arms, a body, like every other fighter does. But it's just his mind that's different to everyone. Everyone has their own unique, like, they're unique in their own way. But in terms of the frame and the makeup of someone, he's seen people like me. I've seen people like him many a times before. But it's just his mind that I'll have to conquer in the ring. You have to take someone's soul, you have to take their spirit. And I'm looking forward to the challenge for sure.
As you can see, the guys are far from the most talkative, especially Joshua, but even short interviews with their participation made it clear with what mental attitude each of them approaches this fight and what we should expect. I think Anthony was right when he said that the psychological aspect would be the decisive factor, but before building theories, let's discuss how the giants can defeat each other. Ngannou's advantages. For a long time, people believed that Ngannou's strengths were limited only to his inhuman athleticism, but Francis has dispelled these myths a long time ago, and in the fight against one of the best heavyweights of the era, he proved that he is a gifted and versatile fighter. In addition to strength and outstanding speed for such sizes, the Predator has timing, a great chin, excellent clinch, and surprisingly incredible learning abilities. While I have already talked about the first three qualities many times before, and you have seen them in action yourself, including Francis's fight with Tyson, then I would like to talk about the third one in more detail. At the beginning of the 2010s, Ngannou barely left his native Cameroon and ended up in France, where he became homeless but soon managed to get into Fernando Lopez's training hall, where he began his path as a mixed martial arts fighter. In just a few months, the Predator gained enough skills to start his MMA career. Many years later, Francis did the same thing, only this time he trained according to boxing rules, and in his debut, he managed to embarrass the reigning world champion. These examples prove that Ngannou can progress faster than anyone else, and none of his opponents can know how much stronger he will be next time. In addition to immeasurably fast growth, lately the Cameroonian surprises with his game plans as well as fighting intelligence, with the help of which he manages to tip the scales in his favor, even in the most difficult moments. To summarize, it turns out that Francis is a huge, strong, more or less technical, and constantly thinking knockout machine without obvious flaws. Fighting against such a monster is something only an absolutely fearless person would want, but we are lucky because Anthony is just like that. Joshua's advantages. Like Ngannou, Joshua has many strengths, and in his case, I will pay more attention to boxing skills. Currently, Anthony is one of the most cautious and patient heavyweight boxers, but it wasn't always like that. Calculated approach and patience came to him only after years and as many as 3 defeats to guys whom AJ could easily beat in theory. Back then, he was too impulsive and overconfident, but now he fights cautiously, which makes him a very tricky opponent. Due to his size and footwork, it is very difficult to reach the former champion's head, and while opponents try to do this, they constantly run into his sharp jab. If the attacks with the front hand reach the target and the guy in front of him cannot adequately respond, Joshua begins to connect power punches, and he utilizes certain punches against different opponents. Naturally, the best thing Anthony can offer is his right straight, but now he uses it only when he is 100% sure. Technically, the Briton has perfectly adapted for fights at a long distance, but what about physical qualities? Joshua's cardio is on point, and in his rhythm he can box as long as he wants, and there is no need to worry about his power either. Not like with Ngannou, of course, but it's better to avoid a direct collision with him. Actually, it's quite difficult for me to imagine who among the heavyweight elites, except for Usyk, can exchange blows with Joshua on equal terms. That's how good he is. With all my love for Ngannou, I'm sure that an attempt to play as a counterpuncher again this time will let him down because Anthony is too good. To defeat such version of AJ, there should be a completely different approach, and we will talk about it now. Conclusion. Let's immediately set the record straight. If Francis comes into the fight against Joshua using his counterpuncher style, he will most likely lose. You can argue and say that everything worked out with Fury, so Anthony, who is considered a much less skilled fighter, will sooner or later bite on the Predator's tricks, after which he will tumble to the canvas. In fact, everything is different. Joshua has already carefully studied Francis's style and knows all or almost all his tricks, so he can easily use his most standard plan. Working at a distance, footwork, light attacks with a jab, and pulling the opponent onto himself for a powerful punch in response, that's a whole recipe for success for AJ. So what should Ngannou do if his boxing doesn't work out this time? The answer is very simple. He needs to fight in the style of an MMA fighter. Francis must return to his initial aggressive version and try to break the praised boxer. To do this, he will need to deprive the opponent of space, and for this, he will have to push Joshua out of the center. As soon as the Brit loses his position, he will start running. But Ngannou should not lose focus. Instead, he needs to chase Anthony on his heels and prepare his left hook. In preparation for the fight, Francis repeatedly stated that he wants to test the Brit's jaw, and there is no better weapon for this than a hook. If the Predator manages to catch Joshua at the ropes at least a few times in the starting rounds, he will have a real chance of winning. Why am I exclusively about the beginning of the fight? The fact is that for Anthony, such behavior of the opponent will be a surprise, and he will start making mistakes, as has repeatedly happened with him in the past. It is also worth remembering that Ngannou's cardio is far from elite, and he will not be able to maintain such a style of fighting for a long time. If the plan with a blitz at the very beginning does not work, Francis will be left without strength at the mercy of AJ, and this, of course, is very dangerous, but exchanging shots is even worse. So does Ngannou have only a suicide plan for the fight and nothing else? Actually, there is one more important point. The Predator also has an incredible mentality. Unlike all top-level boxers like Fury, Joshua, Wilder, or even Usyk, for whom performances in the ring have become a heavy routine, Ngannou experiences incredible emotions from his fights. For him, professional boxing has not yet turned into something usual, so he feels the thrill and surge of strength every time, which many have already forgotten. His eyes are lightened up with some abnormal passion, and confidence in his own strength does not fade even for a moment. This incredible aura of a rock man greatly strains and even scares those who come out to fight against him, and many fans noticed this back in the times when Ngannou performed in the UFC. Of course, it will not be possible to simply intimidate Anthony with his energy, but in combination with pressure and heavy blows, mentality can become the most important element that will accelerate the breakdown of Joshua and help Ngannou finally deliver the most important blow. No matter how this fight turns out, I think we will not be disappointed, and will discuss it more than once in the future when it gets to the fight against the undisputed champion. However, it is still necessary to identify a winner, and I, with the creak of my heart, will pick Anthony Joshua. Objectively, Francis needs to go for big risks so that he can at least have a chance to deliver his blow. Even if he manages to pull Anthony in his range, there are no guarantees that Ngannou will land and knock him out. If this does not happen, the Brit will simply poke him to death and win by decision, which I see as the most likely outcome. I give it 60% for the victory of the former champion Anthony Joshua and 40% for the unshakable titan Francis Ngannou. But again, this is my personal opinion, and I express it based on my beliefs. Okay guys, now I'm waiting for your opinion in the comments. Who will win? Let's have a discussion.